bags on a Tuesday, not in a rush, not crying, carefully, the way you pack when you have already made up your mind 3 months ago, and today is just the logistics. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom watching her fold her silk blouses into the suitcase I had bought her for our 5th anniversary, and she said, without looking up, "Daniel, I think we both know this hasn't been working for a long time." She was right, it hadn't been working. But not for the reasons she thought. What she didn't know, what nobody in the world knew, was that exactly 22 days earlier, I had received a wire transfer for $4.2 million, sitting in an account with my name on it, and I had told absolutely no one. Not my best friend, not my mother, not the man at the bank who processed the transfer and probably went home and told his wife about the quiet guy in the blue jacket who didn't even flinch. No one. Welcome back to Dad's True Revenge. Grab something warm, get comfortable. This story takes its time, but I promise you every single minute of it is worth it. Drop a comment when you're in. Let's go. Her name was Claire Matheson, and when I first met her, I thought she was the most effortlessly confident woman I had ever been in the same room with. We met at a mutual friend's dinner party in Charlotte, North Carolina, 7 years ago. She was 29, I was 31. She had this way of making conversation feel like it was going somewhere, like every sentence was building toward something interesting, even when it wasn't. She laughed at the right moments. She asked questions that made you feel like you were worth asking questions about. I fell for that laugh before I even knew her last name. We dated for 2 years. Slow at first, then all at once, the way these things go. We got married in a small ceremony at a vineyard outside Asheville on a Saturday in October when the leaves were doing their thing, and everything looked like a photograph someone would print and put on a wall. Her parents liked me well enough. My parents loved her, especially my mother, who cried at the wedding and kept saying she was so glad Daniel had finally found someone. My father shook my hand and said, quietly, in that way he had of saying important things quietly, "She's sharp, son. Make sure you keep up or see." I laughed. He wasn't joking. We moved into a 2-bedroom in a neighborhood called Sedgefield, decent area, good coffee shop on the corner, the kind of place where young professionals live before they figure out what their life is actually going to look like. I was working as a senior software developer for a mid-sized logistics company called Heartline Solutions. Good salary, stable work. The kind of job that makes your parents feel relieved and makes you feel like you are doing the responsible thing, which is not always the same as the right thing. Claire worked in marketing. She was good at it, genuinely good. The kind of person who understood what made people want things and could translate that into language that moved them. She got promoted twice in 3 years. Started making more than I did. I was proud of her. But here is the thing about building a life with someone, and I want to say this without bitterness, because I have earned the right to say it plainly. You cannot build something that lasts on a foundation of what things look like from the outside. Claire valued appearances. Not in a conscious, calculated way, more the way some people breathe, automatically, without choosing it, without even noticing they're doing it. She noticed what other people drove. She noticed zip codes. She noticed watches in restaurants and the specific way someone's kitchen was or wasn't renovated. I drove a 2016 Honda Accord. I wore clothes that fit but didn't announce anything. I did not have opinions about restaurants unless the food was good. I was, in Claire's world, fine, acceptable, present and accounted for. And for a long time, longer than I want to admit, fine felt like enough. Then she changed jobs. 8 months before she left me, Claire accepted a marketing director position at a firm called Meridian Creative. They did brand strategy for luxury real estate developers. It was a significant step up. Better title, better salary, better office on the 14th floor with a view of uptown Charlotte that she texted me a photo of on her first day. I was happy for her, genuinely. Marcus Webb came with the job. He was 44 years old, recently divorced, and the kind of wealthy that doesn't announce itself because it doesn't need to. He owned 3 commercial real estate developments in the Research Triangle area, a vacation property somewhere outside Hilton Head, and the kind of quiet confidence that comes from never having had to calculate whether you could afford something. He was Meridian's biggest client. He was in the office regularly. He was charming in that easy, unhurried way that men who have never been financially stressed tend to be charming, like they have all the time in the world because, economically speaking, they do. I noticed the shift in Claire before I understood what was causing it. She started staying later at work. Small thing, she had always worked hard. But the energy was different. There was a brightness to her when she came home that she wasn't directing at me. She started being more careful with her phone, not obviously, not dramatically, just the small adjustments of someone managing information. She started having opinions about restaurants she had never mentioned caring about. She started talking about travel the way people talk about it when someone has recently made it feel possible. I am not a confrontational person by nature, but I am observant. My father was an engineer. He raised me to pay attention to systems, to notice when something was functioning differently than it was designed to. Something was functioning differently. I did not confront her. I want to be clear about why. It was not passivity. It was not fear. It was something that felt in the moment, more like strategy, though I wouldn't have used that word. More like, I had a feeling that the situation was already in motion and that forcing a confrontation before it finished moving would only produce noise and not truth. So I watched. I waited. I paid attention. And I sat quietly, on information that would have changed everything, information that I had decided, for reasons I was still working out even then, not to deploy as a weapon in someone else's story. The conversation happened on a Sunday morning in March. One of those early spring mornings in Charlotte where the air hasn't decided yet whether it's winter or not, cool and pale and a little unresolved. She sat across from me at the kitchen table. Our kitchen table, where we had eaten 1,000 breakfasts and had 100 easy Saturday morning conversations about nothing in particular. She had clearly rehearsed what she was going to say. I could tell because she started in the middle of it, the way people do when they have been running the beginning in their head for so long it feels already spoken. She said she had developed feelings for someone, that she hadn't acted on them fully, a qualifier I noted and did not comment on. That she was telling me because she believed in honesty, that she thought it was better I heard it from her. I sat very still. I drank my coffee. I listened to the whole thing. Then I asked her the only question that mattered to me in that moment. Claire, is it the money? I'm not asking to make you feel bad. I'm asking because I'd like to understand. Is it because of what he has? She took a long time. Long enough that I had my answer before she spoke. I just feel like I've been settling, she said finally. Like I've been living a smaller life than I was meant to live. And when I'm around him I feel like the ceiling is higher, like there's more possible. I nodded slowly. I looked at my coffee cup. I thought about the wire transfer sitting in an account she didn't know existed. I thought about my father, in his garage, building things that didn't need to be built. I looked up at her. I understand, I said, and I meant it. Not with warmth, not with coldness, just with the simple, unadorned truth of a man who had just had something confirmed that he had already, on some level, known. I did not tell her what I knew. Not that morning. Not that week. Not when she moved her things out 3 weeks later. Not when she called from Marcus Webb's address to check that she hadn't left anything important behind. Not once. Let me take you back. 18 months before any of this. My father, Robert Gallagher, was an engineer for 32 years at a manufacturing firm in Greensboro. Quiet man. Methodical. The type who kept a notebook in his breast pocket and wrote things down in handwriting so small it looked like it was trying not to take up space. He had a garage workshop that was organized with a precision that his personal life never quite matched. Every tool in its place, every project labeled, every loose end resolved. He had also, between 1996 and 2001, filed 4 software patents. Compression algorithms, data architecture work, deeply technical, largely invisible to anyone who didn't work in the specific corner of software engineering where such things matter. I had known about the patents since I was a teenager. Dad mentioned them occasionally, the way people mention things that are real but distant. Yes, they exist. Yes, they might matter someday. No, don't hold your breath. He passed away 26 months into my marriage to Claire. Heart attack. He was 67, which is not young and is not old, and is exactly the age at which it feels most unfair. He went quickly, which people kept telling me was a mercy, and which I understood intellectually, and which did not help even a little. He left me everything. The house in Greensboro, which I sold, a savings account, some tools I kept, and the patents. For over a year I did essentially nothing with the patents. I retained an intellectual property attorney named Patricia Morse because the estate required it, and she told me the patents had potential licensing value, but that the landscape was complicated and evaluation would take time. Time passed. Life continued. Claire and I lived our ordinary life in Sedgefield, while somewhere in the background Patricia Morse was doing her careful, methodical work. 14 months after my father died, she called me on a Thursday afternoon. "Daniel," she said, in the measured tone of someone delivering news that they want to land correctly. "EVI, a technology firm based in Austin, has been utilizing your father's compression architecture as a foundational component of their core product for approximately 6 years, without a license or any form of compensation to the estate." "See," I said nothing. "We have thorough documentation," she continued. "Their legal team is aware of the situation. They have indicated a strong preference for out-of-court resolution." "Patricia," I said, "what are we talking about?" She told me the number they had proposed. I set the phone down on my kitchen counter, picked it up again, asked her to repeat it. She did. "What do I do?" I said. "You accept the settlement," she said, "and you tell no one until the funds are confirmed and transferred. Standard practice. Settlements of this nature occasionally attract complications if word circulates prematurely. See, no one." I repeated, "No one," she said. The wire cleared on a Wednesday morning at 9:14 a.m. I checked my account from my phone, sitting in my car in the parking lot of a Panera Bread on South Boulevard. $4.2 million. My name, my account, my father's quiet small font, garage workshop legacy. I sat in that parking lot for 22 minutes. Then I went inside and ordered a coffee and a sandwich and ate lunch like a man who did not have $4.2 million and had nowhere particular to be. 3 weeks later, Claire packed her bags. I let her go. I want to sit with that for a moment because I know what it sounds like. It sounds passive. It sounds like defeat dressed up in retrospective wisdom. I understand that. But here is what I need you to understand about that decision. I did not stay quiet to manipulate anyone. I did not engineer a situation to make someone regret a choice. What I did, and I have thought about this more times than I can count, was simply refuse to use the truth as a leash. If someone is leaving, you do not get to buy their presence with a bank balance. That is not love. That is not a marriage. That is a transaction. And I had been in enough of those already to know they don't feel like anything worth keeping. So I let her go. And I began, quietly and without announcement, to live the life I could now actually afford. I bought a house in Myers Park, cash. 4 bedrooms, a backyard with actual trees, a kitchen that had been renovated by someone who understood kitchens. The kind of house that, by Claire's internal metric system, would have registered as significant. I did not post about it. I did not change my profile picture. I did not tell anyone outside of my attorney and my closest friend, Marcus Tillman, my Marcus, not Webb, who had known me since our freshman year of college, and who had been sitting on this secret with me like a man, holding a lit firework, and waiting politely for permission. "Daniel," he said, sitting in my new living room 2 months after Claire left, looking at 12-foot ceilings and original hardwood floors, and the particular quality of light that comes through windows in a house that cost what this house cost.
"How long are you going to do this?"
"Do what?"
"Exist quietly while your ex-wife is across town thinking she traded up." "I'm not doing anything," I said. I'm living my life." He gave me a look that communicated a full paragraph of skepticism in under a second. "You're doing something," he said. "Fie, I don't know exactly what it is, but you are absolutely doing something." I refilled his drink. I did not argue with him, because he was right in a way. Not that I had a plan, but that there is a specific kind of patience that is its own form of action. The patience of a man who has decided to let things arrive at their own pace. Who trusts that the truth, given enough time and enough silence, will eventually find its own way into the room. It always does. That has been my experience. It always does. It was Claire's sister Jenny who started it. Jenny Marshall. Jenny Matheson, before she got married, had always been honest with me in the way that a person is honest when they genuinely respect you and are not trying to manage you. She texted me occasionally after the separation. Not often. Just enough that I knew she was paying attention. In August, 6 months after Claire left, there was a birthday dinner for a mutual friend. I attended. Claire did not. I had, by this point, made some minor adjustments to how I moved through the world. Not dramatic ones. I had replaced the Accord with a newer vehicle, still modest, still sensible, but clearly not the car of a man who was scraping through. I wore a watch my father had left me, nothing flashy, but well, made the kind of object that a person with taste notices. I was, in ways that were small but cumulative, slightly more visible than I had been. Jenny saw me across the room. We talked. She asked how I was, genuinely, And I told her honestly because she had earned it. I told her about the patents, about Patricia Morse, about the settlement, about the house in Myers Park, about what the last 6 months had actually looked like from where I was standing. Jenny listened to all of it. She asked 1 or 2 careful questions. She was not a gossip. I want to be clear about that. She was not the kind of person who runs to her sister with information as a weapon. But she was, fundamentally into her core, honest. And there are moments when honesty and loyalty point in the same direction, and this was one of them. 2 days after that dinner, she called Claire. I don't know the exact words exchanged. I have never asked, and I likely never will. But I know the call happened because 71 hours after Jenny and I talked at that birthday dinner, my phone rang on a Friday evening and the name on the screen was Claire. I let it ring twice, old habit. Then I answered. Daniel, she said. Her voice had a texture I hadn't heard in it before, something careful and slightly unsteady, the way a person sounds when they are trying to hold their composure around something large. Hey Claire, I said. A pause. Long enough that I could picture her on the other end, choosing her next sentence the way you choose something you can unchosen. Jenny told me about your father's patents, she said.
About the settlement.
Okay. She gave me a number, Daniel.
Okay, another pause. Longer.
Why didn't you tell me when we were still? Why didn't you say anything? And here is the moment. The one I had, without quite realizing it, been moving toward for 6 months. I could have been sharp. I could have listed every restaurant she chose because of who was taking her, every quiet measurement she had made of my life and found it insufficient. I could have said something that landed like a gavel. Instead, I told her the truth, because by that point, it was the only thing left that meant anything. Because I needed to know who you were when you thought I had nothing, Claire. I needed to see what you chose when you thought the ceiling was low, and I saw it, and now I know. Silence. The specific silence of someone receiving something true that they cannot argue with and do not entirely want to. Marcus and I, it's not what I thought it would be, she said quietly. He's not. I think I made a mistake, Daniel. Claire, I said. Gently? Genuinely. I hope you're okay. I mean that without any agenda. But I'm not the right person for this conversation anymore. Take care of yourself, I said. And I hung up. My father built things in a garage because the building was the point. He filed patents on compression algorithms in 1997 because solving the problem mattered to him, not the recognition. He went to work for 32 years at a company whose name most people in his life couldn't remember. He came home. He had dinner. He went to the garage and worked on things that didn't need to exist until he made them exist. He never got rich in his lifetime. He never had a house in Myers Park or a watch anyone noticed. He had a notebook in his breast pocket and a workshop that was organized better than most people's lives, and a son he told once quietly, in the way he told all the important things. The only measurement that matters is the one you take of yourself. See, he left me $4.2 million, but that sentence was worth more. Claire and Marcus Webb separated that November. I heard it from Jenny, who mentioned it the way you mention weather, factually without drama. I sent no message. I felt no particular triumph. What I felt, sitting in my house on a Tuesday evening with a cup of coffee and nowhere to be, was the very simple and deeply underrated feeling of a man who knows exactly who he is. That was my father's real inheritance, not the patents, not the settlement, not the house in Myers Park or the watch or any of it. The knowledge, settled and unshakable, that I was never, not for a single moment of those 7 years, as small as she had decided I was. That's the secret. The one she didn't know. It was never the money. If this story stayed with you, if it meant something, hit that like button and subscribe to Dad's True Revenge. Every week, real stories about patience, dignity, and the quiet satisfaction of letting the truth speak for itself. Drop a comment below. Tell me what you thought. Tell me your story. I read every single one. And as always, the best revenge isn't loud. It never is. See you next week.